We're building a wheelchair ramp for a veteran in the city of Wayne, and the wheelchair ramp is being built by the Ray West Memorial Ramp Project, which is a Labor Department project from the United Way of Southeastern Michigan. It's being built today completely with volunteers on a project. It's one of 227 ramps that we built in the last 8.5 years with over 2,000 volunteers. Now in this case, the workers that I have behind me came from the UAW Ford, predominantly from the Wayne plant. They are volunteers. They came out to work. They could be working in the plants. We have had them. This came because of Jim Terrault is the Vice President of North American Operations for Ford Motor Company. And he came to us and he said that he'd like to provide the labor for us because of the Ford's commitment to community service in the community. And they've expanded this now to 4 other states. They also do this in Cleveland, Chicago, Lexington, Kentucky, and Kansas City, Missouri. So they've taken this project across the country now. They think the value of that, which is a wonderful thing, because they've seen what it can do for the people in the community. Viability is a key issue. In terms of what the members are doing behind, they're all UAW members, and that came under the direction of Jimmy Settles. He's the Vice President of the Ford Division at the UAW. And when we got the call from Mr. Settles' office that he wanted to donate the $100,000 towards the project, we were ecstatic at that time. But to see the fruition of this, coming up to the end of our 40 ramps in this case, it's very heartwarming to know there's at least 40 more families that have been touched out there because of what the UAW and Ford have done in conjunction with the United Way and our Ray West Memorial Ramp Project.
This program started with Vice President Jimmy Settles, the UAW, picking up the phone and calling our labor relations chief and saying, hey Marty, we've got something we really want to do to help shut-ins in the Detroit area because nobody's helping them. And we want to build ramps and provide access for them to get in and out of their homes. Marty called me and said, hey, Jim, can you supply the labor? And my first reaction was, of course, what are you talking about? And so we got together and talked about this project. And what was required of us was to pull carpenters from our manufacturing plants and allow them to go work on this project.
UAW has always been part of the community since its inception in the late 1930s. The partnership now that we have with Ford, we really had it all the time. I mean, we have historically, since the early 1940s or 50s, I guess, when March of Dimes, United Foundation, and Red Cross, we jointly have come together, even before that, even during the time of war, jointly got together and worked with them on joint projects. But here recently, we felt as if we needed to extend it, not just do the things we have normally been doing, but see what other things we can do in the community. You know, Ford has a Ford Fund, and they kind of operated by themselves, so we thought it was a good idea to do it jointly, do more things jointly. And that's how we got into the ramp project and some of the other projects that we have going on now.
When people are stuck in their homes for whatever reason that requires them to use a wheelchair or a walker, and they're not able to get out of their homes, and the majority of people can't afford the extra cost of building a wheelchair ramp, they can run anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to have one professionally built. As a volunteer unit, we're able to come out and keep the cost down by donations to between $1,500 and $2,500 for an average ramp because it's all volunteer built. The project is built in a modular fashion. It was adopted from the original designs from the Minnesota Ramp Project, which was done in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They were online pictures and drawings of how to build them. We've adopted it. The majority of what we do is a resemblance of that project. We've gone a little bit further because we actually reuse about 3/4 of the ramp that you see behind us will be reused the second time. Being built in a modular fashion, we can build them indoors in inclement weather or whenever we find a time, and then take them out to the site and put it together as a kit. And because they're put together that way, if you can reuse 3/4 of it a second time, the cost of a $2,000 ramp is only $500 or $600 the second time. So you dramatically cut down on the cost of the ramps. You get to service more people, and because the project still technically owns the ramps, the people that we build them for, there's not one single screw goes into their home.
For me personally, I actually have a personal reason for wanting to do this. When I was young, here in Detroit, I had an uncle who was a shut-in. He lived on Outer Drive, and for 4 or 5 years at the end of his life, he never got out of his house because there was no access. You know, he lived up several stairs, couldn't get out. He was bedridden. And I'll tell you, for me personally, it was very gratifying. The very first ramp project that we did, I went with Vice President Suttles, and we saw the commissioning of the first ramp.
Years ago, my own father was in a wheelchair for 12 and a half years. He was left side paralyzed from strokes. And I saw what it took for my mother to take care of him at home. She took care of him at home for 12 and a half years with a porta potty chair and sponge bath. And I saw what it took for her to get him out every day. And because she was able to do that with a ramp at the home where she lived, she was able to, you know, my dad was able to keep an active lifestyle, albeit in a wheelchair. He was still part of society, and his brain stayed intact. You know, he was able to do things, and his knowledge and skills didn't go to waste. He didn't vegetate in a home. So it was really great to be able to see my dad get out, and that was a good forerunner of the project. I had a chance to work with Ray West years ago, and when he had started the project, and it really makes a difference when you see people get out of their homes for the first time. Many people, 4 or 5 years, they haven't been out of their homes.
Oh, it's a super heartbeat for me. It was a surprise to me. The lady friend that takes care of me, she's the one that got involved and got this all started. I didn't even know that you people existed, but this is absolutely super. No way to describe it. I can't get around. I can only get from here maybe to there without falling. And I use my walker, and the VA's getting me a motor cart, and I should be getting it within the next month. So I'll have better ways of getting around and get in and out of the house with no problem. I have to hang on as best I can to that rail out there on the side of where the porch steps are at, and the ramp will just be like going from one room to the other.